This is the tragic story of a black boy who was neglected and ultimately failed by a racist, anti-black system, and why the boy-turned-man, Kevin KJ Johnson, now faces state-sanctioned execution by the state of Missouri. On the evening of July 5th, 2005, Kirkwood police sought to serve a warrant at a family residence in Meacham Park, a neighborhood in St. Louis County, searching for Kevin KJ Johnson. KJ wasn't there, but observed the events from a neighboring home. The traumatic and violent entry of the police caused Kevin's 12-year-old brother, Joseph Bam Bam Long, who had a serious heart condition, to suffer a seizure and collapse. The police ignored the medical emergency. Witnesses say the police stepped over his body and continued searching the house. Witnesses also attest that police officer William McEntee held back KJ's mother from attending to her child on the ground. An ambulance later arrived, and Bam Bam was taken to the hospital where he died. Many community members argue Bam Bam could have been saved if he had received medical attention, and say in other words that the police murdered the 12-year-old child by forcefully denying him medical assistance. KJ witnessed all of this taking place from a neighboring home and experienced irreparable rage and grief. Just 2 hours later, McEntee, the same officer who in essence caused the death of Bam Bam, responded to a report of fireworks in that same neighborhood, and a chance encounter with KJ ensued. Kevin approached McEntee and said, quote, "You killed my brother," before shooting McEntee multiple times. Johnson, now 36 years old, received his sentence from the St. Louis County Circuit Court in 2008 after a prosecution by former St. Louis County prosecuting attorney and well-known white supremacist sympathizer Robert McCulloch. On August 24, 2022, the Missouri Supreme Court issued an execution warrant and scheduled an execution date of November 29, 2022 for Kevin Johnson. Community members say that no one is arguing with whether or not what KJ did was wrong, but they say instead that a 19-year-old who acted out of passion and rage following the murder of his little brother should not face the death penalty. A growing campaign has backed Johnson, often referring to him again by the name KJ. His supporters claim his trial was riddled with missteps and racial bias, and that Johnson was only 19 years old at the time. In addition, Johnson's supporters want to abolish the death sentence. This is what his family has to say as the execution date approaches.
That particular law is also about wrongful convictions, but it's also about constitutional violations. And so in KJ's case, because he was 19, he was very young. Also because of just what happened during the trials. He had 2 trials. There was a lot of, racial bias going on, trying to make sure there weren't no black jurors. There were just a lot of different things that the prosecution at that time did, to make sure that they got a guilty verdict and a death sentence that just don't hold up. So the current prosecutor, he has, stated that he will appoint a special prosecutor to look into it. And we hope that happens. We definitely hope that.
They've already set the execution date, though.
Right, the court. Yeah, that's right. The courts don't, take a lot of things into consideration. There are people who get executed. Actually, someone we worked with last year still had motions in court, and they were executed. So that process doesn't necessarily stop anything unless. They really stop it, but just having a motion in court and just saying I'm going to look into something doesn't necessarily stop anything. But we hope that, a prosecutor will come on to, look into the details of everything and actually get the execution date stopped. That is our, hope and our wish, our prayer for those who are religious. But it's, the court still went ahead and set the date and, they did ask him not to, but they did. So, our court system is a whole other beast. So that's what they decided to do.
Yeah. What do you think they said?
I was going to say, just knowing that he's already served 17 years, that pretty much everybody that knows him says that he's not a violent person, that he everybody that is around him enjoys his presence. It seems that's how people have described him. So just in you all's opinion or experience, does it just seem like hypocritical, or just how would you describe how the system treating him in this way makes you feel? Is it racist? Is it just kind of, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's racist, but also the prosecuting attorney at the time trying to prove a point at the time, and I think like he felt like it hit close to home because his father was killed in the line of duty. So he wanted to do whatever he could, especially, and it was by a black man, so he wanted to do whatever he could to try to make sure Kevin never touched the streets again, ever was released from jail, but also, and that, I think that was really the only way of him doing it, was giving him death, because with all these other laws that's going, even if you would have given him life, he could, it's a possibility that he could still, come home. So I think that's what it was really.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of racism and bias, and that's why we advocate for the end of state-sanctioned murder. Is what it is, because it's a lot of bias. There is actually another case in our community where a 18-year-old killed a policeman, and apparently that was with all intent, malice. The person that spoke about it wrote about it on the internet and all type of things. And for whatever reason, he had a vendetta against policemen. But, he did that, and he got the weapon. He talked about he was going to do it, and he did it. And McCullough said, that situation didn't arise to, meet the criteria of needing a death sentence.
And just clear that person was white.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this was recent, 2016?
I believe so. Yeah, right before, because McCullough left in 18. So yes. And so that case, and it was a policeman, right? It was, a very heinous, if you want to talk about heinous situations, planning and calculated.
It was
And
premeditated.
And he tried to kill another officer, but his gun didn't. His gun jammed, and they actually charged him with assault on another officer when he went to court. So, like, how is that not fit?
Right, it was those circumstances. There are certain, circumstances that they use to say if someone needs a death sentence or not. All of it is, we don't necessarily agree with it, but these are their standards, right? And so premeditation definitely is one of them. But, in that particular person's case, no, he was a white kid. He was, for whatever reason, the prosecutor didn't think that he deserved to be, receive a death sentence or to be tried for a possible death sentence. So definitely a lot of racism overall in that office under that former prosecutor, and in KJ's case and so many other people's cases as well. So it's very difficult. It's difficult to even ask the court to acknowledge or to do anything about, because when a person is a prosecutor, they have a certain authority, and that person had been a prosecutor for almost 30 years, so he's very prominent in this community. So just to even asking people to look into this person is a heavy lift, right? Sadly, it is. So, but that is something that we think should happen, and we're going to keep pushing for accountability and for actual justice, because right now KJ did not receive any. And KJ had 2 trials. I know we know this. KJ had 2 trials. His first trial, it was a mistrial. It was a 10-2 verdict, and actually the 10 was for second-degree murder. But the second trial was more pointed, was more the prosecution made sure that the mitigating circumstances of KJ's life and his trauma were kept out of that second trial, just so that the jury couldn't have any empathy for him or couldn't, understand. So it was very calculated to make sure that he got his verdict that second time.
So
between the courts and a racist prosecutor, Meacham Park, KJ himself, who do you feel like ultimately failed KJ the most?
That's a lot.
That is.
Probably the system
The
itself.
system
Yeah.
itself,
Probably
yeah.
the system itself.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, it's
From being young in group homes up until all of this happened.
Yeah. I know he said when he was in court that he said that he was going through a haze or something like that, and they laughed at him. So that alone there just goes to show that they didn't really care about how he felt or just trying to bring anything that he felt into the picture. So.
Wow. I've seen court personnel make light of a defendant's mental health. I've actually seen that. Not KJ's case, but I've seen that myself, and it's very, very sad. But the system definitely failed. I've actually talked to someone who worked in one of those group homes, and they closed it down because there was so much abuse in this group home. It got closed down. So I've always said that, the system never wants to be held accountable. Nobody is ever accountable for anything that happens to children and young people. It's like, whatever happens, group homes, foster care, whatever, and nobody's responsible. But soon as that child or young person does something to somebody, here come the whole arm of the law, to on top of them. It's like, okay, but where was y'all at when this child was going through
What they were going through.
this or that? Yeah, so it's definitely a systemic failure that we feel KJ. We feel so many young people every single day, and no one is really held accountable for that. But again, when something else happens, these young people are expected to, and
Be held accountable.
it's very sad. Very sad.
Just so I'm clear about it, the system, do you mean like the children's homes and everything that led up to the situation?
Yes, all of it. I mean, even schools, right? School system. Actually, I spoke to one of KJ's former school principals, and we talked about that where school failed as well, because they didn't, and I mean, it's the way the society is set up, right? Teachers are overwhelmed. Not saying that they're not, but from the schools, from the court system, from social services, family courts, these group homes, it's all a huge failure, and it's only punishment or accountability when it turns on someone else, but the system just is all over, just horrible. So yeah, it's very much a systemic problem that happened to Kate in the whole community. I mean, just Meacham Park overall, like I said, how they broke the community up, put the highway, split it up, just made it to where the people were vulnerable, they were poor, they didn't have a lot, just the way that, and it happens to so many black communities, right, and poor communities. So just, even that situation, how Meacham Park came to be how it was, is a systemic failure.
And could you, is there anything that KJ specifically wanted the public to know or wants the people to know?
Yeah, he just wants everybody to keep signing, keep fighting, keep signing the petition.
Yeah, he just wants everyone to be aware of what's going on. Like, this could happen to anybody, and he just wants people to just spread the word and try to help him as much as possible, and
reach out to the governor's office.
Yeah, reach out to people and just do everything that you can.
Yeah.
And also he wants his family supported. Corey is 19. She is due any moment now to have KJ's grandson, and so he is very, very when I talk to him, at least concerned about you and making sure you're okay and have the support that you need. So I think that he is very much still thinking about other people, and not just his other family members, everyone. So he definitely wants, and that's one thing that I'm here and my organization is here for, to support the family. But yeah, he definitely talks a lot about his daughter and how he wants her to be okay and make sure she has what she needs and support as well. So I think that is a huge a fatherly thing, right? So, and I also want to talk about the fact that even though he is incarcerated and on death row, KJ has had an amazing relationship with Corey. To kind of talk about your relationship with your dad a little bit.
Well, even though he's been incarcerated my whole life, it's almost like he's still been there, from like what I can remember from like middle school. I know that I was having my report cards sent to him, and if I had a bad grade or something, he would see that, so he would be calling me, just getting on me about that, and getting myself together. And even now, like, he wants the best for me. Like, you about to be a mom, you gotta get your stuff together, you gotta just do everything you can, don't be a bum. So he definitely he wants the best for me. And even though it's really hard on him right now, he's just trying to make sure that I'm okay and that I still have everything that I need to have to be successful. And he's telling me, like, don't let this stuff get to me and try to be strong and stuff like that. And
even with the books. You get
Yeah.
income from the books.
Yeah, he was just like, even when he wrote the books, and he was saying numerous of times in the book that I'm like his world and like his only happiness and stuff like that. So we got a good bond, and he's just always been there for me. Like, even if I need to talk, like, I don't talk to him about boys though. Cause he don't have that dad, point of view. So, but yeah, he's real supportive in everything I do. Like, if I was to go to college or something, he sent me college scholarships that I can get into, or like programs, or like I told him I wanted to be a nurse, so he's had like some of his friends that are nurses or like LPNs or something contact me and like, just try to help me as much as possible. He does everything that he can from behind bars. And so it's almost like he's not behind bars, but he does as much as he can. So
That's amazing. That's very, very amazing. He definitely, actually the first time we spoke, we had a conversation about you and being pregnant, and he's just like, I was upset, but I'm trying to be okay. And I'm like, she seems like a smart young lady, and she's gonna be okay. So
he definitely coming around to the fact now. Like,
Yeah.
he's
He
more
was
concerned
mad.
about. Yeah, he was mad. Like,
He mad at me when I was pregnant.
He was mad at everybody. He's like, you having another baby? He used to tell me that all the time. You about to have another baby?
but he coming around to the fact, like, he's more concerned about me and my health. Like, he's calling me, asking me, am I in labor yet? Or like, what they saying, like, if I was to have a C-section, how would I feel? Like, stuff like that. So he's definitely a concerned parent, and just like, he's not really trying to let what's going on affect him. He's still trying to be a good dad, and, just how he's been all these years. He's trying to still maintain that. So
and there's a lot of pictures of Corey growing up, visiting her dad, and different pictures that they've shared with us as well, and we've used. So I can definitely tell that he's been there, and it is difficult being incarcerated, trying to be a parent. So that's not an easy thing to do. So I just think it's amazing that you all have that type of bond. And
What are some of your... Sorry, go ahead.
I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, okay.